earlier this week, Boris Johnson revealed the vaccine rollout was well underway, 1.3 million Brits having already been given the jab.
But with 1,000 more deaths and record high 62,000 new positive COVID cases recorded yesterday, it's shown just how desperately it's needed.
Well, 3,000 miles away, Israel has become the unlikely world leader in COVID vaccinations, with 150,000 people being vaccinated every day, and that's resulted in 15% of its entire population already protected, although that is a much smaller population.
So how have they done it, and what could we learn from them?
Well, we can talk now to the head of the Israeli Covid-19 task force, Dr Boaz Lev. Thank you very much indeed for joining us. So you've certainly hit the ground running here. How have you done it? And I know that you've said you are not trying to lead the world here. You're trying to, beat the virus. So what did you have in place?
Well, I think the first thing is that we had the vaccines available for us because we were negotiating very early in the COVID scene with all the manufacturers, and it was kind of a gamble. So we have succeeded in this gamble. That's one thing. The other thing is that every resident in Israel is actually enrolled in one of 4 providers, medical providers, and we have digital medical records, as everybody has. It's easy to access all the residents, so it was easy to call them and summon them, and if they would call in, they would get a scheduled jab. So this was really running very fast. The next thing was really the logistics, which we were prepared to receive the Pfizer vaccine. That was the first vaccine that arrived, and I think today we are getting also the Moderna vaccine, but we were actually ready to have those big pizzas, the 1,000 vial pizzas, ready in the minus 70 degrees stores and sites where people got the vaccination. So there was another thing. The third thing was a big media campaign, not only media, new media, also recruiting the opinion leaders in Israel to promote the vaccine and actually regain the trust, the public trust in this campaign, which was extremely important. And the next thing was the prioritization plan, which everybody knows where he stands. So who gets it first and who gets it further.
Can I ask you then, we're very lucky here. We have our National Health Service, the NHS. You were describing there that you had this system where everybody was registered. Are we sort of in a very fortunate position here to replicate your success? Because unlike other countries around the world, we do have this national service.
Well, obviously, I think that the fact that the 4 HMOs or the medical insurer providers are in very close contact to all the residents. We have a very strong community service. So we were able to actually reach every site in Israel. And you have to remember, Israel is a small country, basically, and it's easy to access every point. So I think this was part of the success story.
OK,
thank you very much indeed,
well done. Keep going.
Dr Lev. So he's the head of the pandemic unit in Israel's Ministry of Health.
So can we replicate the success Israel has had with its vaccine rollout? And just what does that mammoth job involve?
Well, Professor of Supply Chain Management, Richard Wilding, is an expert in these kind of operations. He joins us now. So that was a sort of that initial case there. Israel's done it pretty well. That's their system. And we use that as a system to hold up against our system. Now, you can't compare the two countries, very, very different countries. However, can we get close to that? Can we match that, and how quickly?
Well, what we're going to be seeing is that we can match this. I mean, we've got some real advantages in the UK. The one NHS is really helpful because that means that you can have a sort of a plan which is actually put together, one big plan, as it were, for the way that this is rolled out. Also, there are advantages in our country if you think about the infrastructure we have and the size of the country. So, for example, if you think about, we have something in logistics called the Golden Rectangle, which is really between Milton Keynes and Rugby in the United Kingdom. And if you put a warehouse or you put distribution facilities in that particular area, you can actually get product to 96% of the population within a couple of hours, and you can get it to everywhere in the country overnight. So logistically, we're in a very strong place. And the new vaccine is much, much easier to manage than the Pfizer vaccine because that's a chilled product. So that is 2 to 8 degrees Celsius.
So I guess when you say that, then people are going to be going, well, why are we not doing that then? If we've got the infrastructure in place for this plan, for this rollout, has been planned for ages, and it can happen overnight.
Or are we doing it?
Right. Well, one of the challenges you always have with these things is we're having to create a brand new supply chain. And that brand new supply chain, of course, is having to be created, but there are delays in the system. So often people think, the vaccine, all we do is we mix a few things together. It's like making a biscuit. We just mix some stuff together and we've got a vaccine. But actually, this is a bit more like making a mature cheddar. It takes time for it to you have to go through a lot of processes to make it.
Well,
but we've got regulation.
Sure,
which we have to go through.
What we want to talk about now is getting this out, because we spoke yesterday to 2 extraordinary members of the team who actually were behind the creation of this virus, all built off a blueprint from Sarah Gilbert, I think, Professor Sarah Gilbert, who said initially this might happen to the world, so I'll start a foundation of a blueprint and we can add to that, which is precisely what they did. So now we have the vaccine and we're manufacturing the vaccine. It's the distribution, it's the ability to get it into as many arms as possible.
Yeah, so what you have to think is we've got to manufacture that product. We then have to actually test it and make sure it's safe. So that's where the MHRA comes in. There is a lead time associated with that. It was around about 20 days, but there's talk today that it's actually they're being able to streamline that down to around about 5 days now. So you've got to fill that pipeline, and that's part of the challenge. So at this stage, if you think that the vaccine was approved on about the 30th of December, there's a ramp up phase which takes place. So we actually have to have special supply chains in place to cope with that ramp up as we get to it, if you like, a steady state, which will probably occur in a few weeks. So at the moment, they're building capacity through everything that's going on. They're making sure that the infrastructure that we have, those warehouses, those lorries and everything else is coordinated. Of course, very importantly, the processes. And then we've got the information systems, which the previous speaker spoke about.
Can I ask you, sorry, because we haven't got long. I just wanted to ask you, we've been set the target, which was 30 million by March, I think. I mean, are we on target for that? Is that likely?
I think it's very likely that if we can get the manufacturing capacity and everything else is sort of coordinated, we can do it. Also, what you've got to think is chilled food. This is something which we do all the time. It's like yogurt. It's like cheese. We have the capacity to be able to move these things out. So I'm really optimistic that as long as we've got the stuff available, we can get it out. Okay. But don't forget, you've also got about 80 different items that need to be there so you can receive your vaccination. You've got things like the needles, the syringes, cotton wool balls, alcohol wipes and everything else. So it's like a well choreographed ballet which is taking place to ensure that everybody can get it. And at the moment, I'm sure, like a beautiful swan on a pond, everything's looking great,
but
there's going to be some legs pedaling away underneath.
Thank you. Good to talk to you today. Thank you very much.